You're watching San Francisco Rising with Chris Manners. Today's special guest is Shireen McSpadden.
Hi, I'm Chris Manners and you're watching San Francisco Rising, the show that's about restarting, rebuilding and reimagining our city. Our guest today is Shireen McSpadden. She's the Executive Director of the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing, and she's here with us today to talk about some of the problems facing the city and some of the solutions. Ms. McSpadden, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Well, thank you for joining us. So let's start by talking about a category of people that are traditionally sort of not considered that much, the invisible homeless. What does the city do to help them and how can they assist?
Right. So most people, when they think of homelessness, think of the people they see on the street every day when they pass through the Tenderloin or mid-market. And yet we know that many people experiencing homelessness are not visible to the average person. And a lot of those people are children, a lot of them are older adults, a lot are families. That's what we see every day at the Department of Homelessness. And just on top of that, there's more prevalence of homelessness among brown and black communities. And I think we often don't realize that there are basic inequities. 40% of our homeless population identifies as black or African American, when we know that only 5% of the overall population identifies as black or African American. You can say that the same thing about the Latinx community, that they're overrepresented. What we really work on every day is trying to make sure that there's some equity in our system and that we're reaching people who are not seen by the public as much, because we know that housing is essentially what everybody needs to thrive in our community.
Quite right. So now, some of the solutions obviously work, but often they're sort of on an individual or smaller scale. How do we expand those solutions so that they actually can be sort of more broadly rolled out?
Well, there's a basic tenet of in the homelessness response system that says you need essentially 3 different interventions. You need prevention so that people don't become homeless in the first place. You need permanent housing or ways for people to get to permanent housing on their own. And you need shelter. So you really need all 3 of those interventions in order to have a complete system for people to access. I think one of the things that we often don't understand is that we need to meet people where they are in our system. Sometimes they don't have the documents or other things that they need to actually move into housing. They may be waiting on disability income or things like that. So we have to be prepared to have things that they're ready to use. So that's why shelter is really important. We know that ultimately prevention is one of the most important tools we can put into our system, because if people don't become homeless in the first place, they're better off for many, many reasons that you can probably imagine, but also it's way cheaper to have somebody avoid homelessness in the first place. And then permanent housing with supports added is a really wonderful tool for many people who can't get housing on their own and often need case management or other services to be able to really access the other parts of their life that they need to access, like employment and things that will help them on the path to success.
Let's talk about the city's new Home by the Bay plan. Can you sort of explain the basics of it and how it's going to help address some of these inequities?
Sure. So the Home by the Bay plan is our new strategic plan. It's a 5-year plan to prevent and end homelessness. What I wanted to do with this plan and what the mayor wanted to do is say, homelessness isn't just owned by the Department of Homelessness. Like, the homelessness response doesn't just sit with us. It actually has to include a number of stakeholders. What that requires is really a collaborative approach, so that we're really continuing to work very closely with the Department of Public Health, sometimes very closely with law enforcement or with Department of Public Works even. And really, we center this plan by listening to the voices of people who have lived expertise of homelessness. We know how to create systems and how to create programs, but without really listening to people's experience and understanding what it was like for them to go through our system, we're not going to make it better, and ultimately it's not going to be as successful as it could be. Our first goal was really to reduce inequities in our system, really advance racial equity. We also ultimately want to reduce the number of people experiencing unsheltered homelessness by 50% in the 5 years. and we want to reduce overall homelessness by 15%. So those are our that's the big overarching goal for us. And some people have said, well, that doesn't seem like enough, or it doesn't seem bold enough. To us, that seems very bold given where we are, not just as a city, but as a country. So we're very proud of that goal and look forward to implementing it and implementing the work that it takes to get there. And hopefully we will be successful in reaching that by the end of the 5 years.
So on another note, we're here at City Gardens, which is a city-owned property with a bunch of lovely apartments inside it. Can you talk a little bit about this project and then maybe talk about how public housing can actually be part of the solution?
One of the very exciting things about this building is it can accommodate families. It's in a neighborhood that's close to some grocery stores, that's close to public transportation. It's a little bit out of the Tenderloin, and when we think about families and children, we're really trying to find places outside of the areas that are most impacted by homelessness. It's a very new building. It's got a lot of good community space. We've actually leveraged a partnership with the San Francisco Housing Authority. They have, the Housing Authority has different kinds of vouchers that they have available. In this case, they had place-based vouchers, so we were able to use those vouchers with some of these units, and it really helps cut the cost. So we got what is called Home Key Dollars, which is a state program that provides money to counties for acquisition. So we're able to leverage that.
Can you just talk about the rental voucher programs and how they help people who are having trouble with housing, and then how it also sort of pulls landlords and property owners into the whole mix?
Sure. So we have a few different voucher programs. We got some emergency vouchers from the federal government during COVID, and we've been dispersing those in partnership with the San Francisco Housing Authority. Of the various programs we have, they do two things. One is they can help prevent people from becoming homeless. So if there are people in danger of becoming homeless and they get a subsidy, they can stay in the place that they have without ever experiencing homelessness. For people who have experienced homelessness and are on the street or in shelter and in our coordinated entry system, sometimes the best way for us to provide housing for them is for them to find it themselves, maybe with the help of a case manager or a housing locator. One of the reasons that makes sense in a place like San Francisco is we've got a number of buildings, SROs and big apartment buildings, right, in certain neighborhoods in San Francisco. And then we have a number of places in San Francisco where we don't have that. And we find people experiencing homelessness across the city, but we don't have a really easy option that's building-based in a number of neighborhoods. So with our emergency housing voucher program, we were able to partner with an access point in Bayview, and we've been very successful in ensuring that people we served were from that neighborhood. And we used that neighborhood kind of as a proxy for people who have experienced homelessness, who were born and raised in Bayview often, and that, instead of having to move them into a place like across town where there happens to be a unit available, we're able to work with them to find their own unit in the neighborhood of their choice. And one of the things that we always hope is that landlords will see the value of this. We've got a number of landlords, especially in really big buildings where there are lots of vacancies, and we think that it's really helpful for them and helpful for us if we can work together so that they can use a number of the units in a building in partnership with us so that we can get people housed and they have a steady flow of income from the rental.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming and talking to us today. This has been quite enlightening.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
All right, and that's it for this episode. We'll be back with another one shortly. For SFGovTV, I'm Chris Manners. Thanks for watching.